Hey, what's going on, B Rich?
What's up, Trey?
You know what, man? I'm not going to take too much time with a whole bunch of pleasantries and us talking to each other about how was your day, how was my day. We got us a special guest here today, man.
We do, man.
We have us a very, very, very special guest. You want me to just jump right into it?
Who we got?
So listen, y'all been following us. Y'all know we're Atlanta sports fans, so you already know it is more than an honor. We have the voice of the Atlanta Falcons, also one of the voices of the ACC, also used to be one of the voices of Georgia Tech. I'm talking about, man, this man is just a legend as far as we're concerned. When you think about Falcons, he's one of the voices that I think about.
I bet he got so many insights to tell us, man.
Hey, man, we finna figure him out, man. Look, I know it's only a few of us, but we finna make as much noise as we can. Y'all give it up for the one and only Wes Durham, man. Yes. What's going on, Wes?
Good to see you guys. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. I'm going to hit you with some of the old folk talk my dad would hit me with. Good to be seen.
I got a birthday coming up, and it's not going south. The numbers are only going north.
Tomorrow, as a matter of fact.
Tomorrow's my
Yes, man. Give it up for Wes again. Tomorrow.
I appreciate it.
How you going to be 25?
Again. Yeah, be 25 one more time. That's it. Yeah.
So say 25 again.
34th anniversary of my 25th birthday.
Wow,
how's that?
That's
hey,
great.
man, that is awesome, man. I hope I can have that many anniversaries of my 25th birthday. I'm not far behind. Not far behind. I just had a birthday pass by December 30th. Yep, finally hit that 5-0.
Oh, right there toward the end of the regular season.
Right there.
Day after the Washington game.
Yeah. So my birthday is kind of funny, and then we'll jump into everything because sometimes the last game of the year will fall. So my wife a couple times has planned some trips. We played Tampa on my birthday, last game of the year.
Yeah.
It was a nice thought. And I'm going to be honest with you. I told her before the season started, I said, well, babe, if we plan to go down on the last game of the season and the season doesn't go well, that's not going to be a fun birthday. And it just so happened that particular year was 2018. I think it was 2018. It was not a fun year.
No, that was not a good year.
It was not.
That was a tough year.
Anyway, but what's going on with you nowadays?
Things are good. Once football creases and the season wraps up, the college season ends right after Thanksgiving. I do a couple bowl games, but I can manage kind of the way those games work. But when the Falcons' regular season ends, I just slide right into doing college basketball and some other projects too. But it's good. It's good. I'm blessed to be able to do this. I've been blessed to do it for a long time, especially with the Falcons. It's hard to believe this past fall was 21 years doing the games.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Dave and I have had a blast. It's been really an unbelievable relationship. And he and I have, built obviously a lot of equity and chemistry in doing the broadcast. So, when we come on the air, people say, well, do you guys, ever kind of script what you're going to talk about? Absolutely not. We don't have to. I mean, we don't even look at each other much during the game. We just know kind of when the other guy's going to talk. And, he's so great. And it's been a real treat, been a real blessing to work with him these many years.
Yeah, I've been a Dave Archer fan for the longest. I remember when he went down and beat Dallas.
Oh, yeah. Now, see, you probably got to get him on the show to talk about the post-game of, wins like Dallas in the 80s and things like that where, they came back and went to – this is back before, NFL guys were just part of the fabric of the community, right? Yeah. They were everywhere. And they would come back after games and the charter would land and the whole team would go to a place like in Sandy Springs. Can you imagine that? Like a public post-game party of a team. Yeah.
Wow.
And most of the team would go. But, yeah, he's got great stories from the 80s with Buddy Curry and Scott Case. And, obviously he played with William Andrews and Gerald Riggs and those guys. So Arch was a terrific player and been lucky to work with him these years.
That's my favorite player is William Andrews of all time.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Injuries hadn't derailed him a little bit. Would have been unbelievable to see what he would have done, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we asked Coach Rabisky because we asked him about William Andrews, and he talked about how special William Andrews was.
Yeah. It's part of the fun for me taking over doing the games in 2004, Trey, has been to learn the history of what happened from 1966 when they started to obviously when I started doing the games. And you really respect the way this franchise started because it started back then. It wasn't easy to get an NFL franchise into a new market. And you remember now they were, planning teams around the Southeast because when you think of those heritage franchises, Packers, Bears, Browns, Steelers, Giants, teams like that, right? Even Washington in this light, those are teams that have been around 100 years. The Giants just had their centennial year. Packers, those kinds of teams.
Wow.
So when they started moving professional football to the Southeast, they really had to think about kind of how they were going to intertwine with the collegiate sports landscape because those marketplaces they were going to were proliferated with college football programs. And Atlanta, and Mr. Smith deserves a lot of credit for this, they came here and brought an NFL team and tapped into more fans. There were already a lot of college football fans, but Atlanta was growing, and the league was smart to buy Rankin Smith's idea of pro football in this marketplace. And I think it's been a win-win for everybody because the one thing I can tell you about Atlanta is this is a football market. People say, well, what kind of sports town is it? Well, it's a football town above and beyond. The Braves have a terrific following. Basketball has a great following. There are a ton of players that have come from Atlanta, right? But at the end of the day, Atlanta loves football. I used to joke when the newspaper used to hit your driveway every day, I used to tell people 300 days a year, football would be above the fold on the sports section. No matter what happened. 65 days a year, it'd be something else. Braves, basketball, golf, something of that nature. 300 days a year, there was a football story above the fold in the paper.
Yeah, people love their football. We had an episode where we talked about if Atlanta could only win one more championship for the city, which team would you want? And I think both, me and B. Rich both chose football. I think we both said if one team, if only one team from Atlanta could win a championship for the rest of history, what team would you pick? And I think we both picked the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the longevity of the franchise and you think about the teams like Detroit just took that loss the other night. They've never been to a Super Bowl. That's a heritage franchise.
Yes.
Cleveland Browns, never been to a Super Bowl. That's a heritage franchise. Now, they played in the old NFL championships, precursor to 66. But those franchises, they're as long-standing as any franchise in the National Football League. They've never been, let alone won it.
Yeah.
Atlanta's been to two. The second one, obviously, is as heartbreaking as it gets. But the bottom line is you were good enough in that particular year to get there. And I think that's kind of the merit you have to hold on to until the next time comes along, I think.
Oh, it's going to come along.
Yeah. Well, I think we turned the corner a little bit this year, and I feel pretty good about where this is going if we can keep the continuity. The hard part and the heavy lift is getting it back in the direction to keep going north.
Yeah.
And this year was frustrating because you saw the optimism. You had that start in the division and things like that, and you felt, okay, well, here's a couple games lead in October and November. But the one thing you can't have in any successful season in professional sports, and in the NFL, I think it gets maximized, is you can't have a losing streak.
Yeah.
You can't give away a sequence of games, especially in November, that are the precursor to what could be, other teams build momentum while you're losing, and that's where losing streaks really hurt.
You know what this year reminded me of? It reminded me of the 2015 Atlanta Falcons when they
got before the Super Bowl, where they started 5-0.
Yes,
yeah.
And I feel like coming into this next season, I think we'll have a run. I think they'll be, they know Coach Ra. Know the offense. Now we got to see what the defensive coordinator does, of course.
Sure.
But I feel like we're gonna come in on hitting on all cylinders and make a run in the playoffs. Hopefully.
I kind of feel the same way. There are differences in the 2 years, obviously, the way the sequencing happened. Mm-hmm. But B. Rich, I think you're right in that you've already made. You know where your stars are, right? I mean, we know that Michael Penix Jr. has a chance to be really a top 5 quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, athleticism, the experience now of playing in these ball games at the end.
It didn't phase him. Like
didn't seem to.
Yeah.
Didn't seem to. Now, he did not have, quote, a perfect game in any of them, but I felt like Michael Penix made enough strides that he was going to be really a factor in this.
Yeah.
The other thing is Atlanta's got a showstopper. The showstopper is Bijan Robinson.
Oh, man.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Last game of the year, that was the best game of his
career. I mean, and then you throw in Drake London, and all of a sudden you got Penix, Robinson, and London, and that's going to be damage control for the other defense, right? Whoever you're playing has got to focus on 3 guys, not 1 guy, not 2 guys, but you got 3. And you cultivate, kind of the mechanics of it. You got to get your line solid on both sides. And then defensively, Jesse Bates has made a huge impact. He's made a huge impact here. And I don't think people realize just how big the impact is. And I'm pretty excited about kind of where this is going in the next couple of years. And, obviously the quarterback thing became tough to process because it didn't go on the timeline that any of us expected it to.
Not at all.
But you've already made that change now. You made that commitment to put yourself in a situation where let's hope 25. Now, the schedule's going to be a little tricky.
It's tough.
Yeah, it is tough.
Yeah.
But we'll see how the schedule unfolds and what the rotation of it is.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see because Atlanta will kind of be sleeping a little bit based on the finish going into 25. Now, they can have some impact in free agency. We'll see what they do there. And then, I think they can get a player that can really help them at 15 right from the jump.
Yeah. Well, Wes, I'm sorry, Trey. Wes, you brought up something. You brought up the players on offense.
Sure.
You did not mention Kyle Pitts.
I didn't.
What's up with him?
I don't know. I don't know where that's going to land.
Like,
and I'm as curious as anybody as to what decision Atlanta makes and what decision Kyle wants to make.
When I'm watching him play, like he did make the catch of the year against Washington.
Sure.
4th down.
Sure,
diving
absolutely.
Catch, right. So he has the talent, but at times it seems like he's not there. It seems like he's just loafing and lost. Do the coaches agree? Do you agree?
I think his inconsistency this year. I'd like to know. There's always two ways on the street, right? There's the what you see and the what you don't know, right? So for me, the inconsistency was concerning, right? Because I make on the chart that I keep for games, I write trends down. So I'll take like last 3 games, last 4 games, catches, touchdowns, yards, all that. I mean, listen, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But the idea of, I wrote down like 1 catch last 3 games. And if I write down 1 catch last 3 games for Kyle Pitts, that's not good for Kyle. That's not good for the team. But then I'd write down another sequence earlier in the year, 2 touchdowns, 7 catches last 3 games. So the consistency of Kyle Pitts is, I think, what we're all wanting to see.
Yes.
Consistently good, not the other way. And I think that's where the conversation has to start. And also, let's be honest, it's a business. And B. Rich, at some point, it becomes a numbers game. And I'm not talking about numbers of players on the team. I'm talking about numbers of dollars under the salary cap. How does that look? And what does that look like? And it may be in his best interest to say, you know what? I need to try and hit a home run financially because I may not want to play that much longer, whatever the situation is. And everybody is different. And that's the other part, too. Players don't oftentimes turn the cards over on what they really want to tell you about their career. And when they do, that's fortunate. But in Kyle's case, I think Kyle and the team have to come to some mutual decision. And the mutual decision may be to part. The mutual decision may be to keep together. We'll see.
You saying, players decide what they want to be or turn the cards over and let you know what they really want out of their careers.
Sure.
You probably haven't seen it because you were making your way here. We just put out a post today from our John Abraham interview. And in that interview, he was talking about former defensive end Jamal Anderson.
Okay.
And he was just talking about how, everyone doesn't come into the league to be what we as fans want them to be.
That's fact.
You have to find out what that player wants from their career when they come in. And so I think Kyle Pitts is at a point where we as fans need to see what does Kyle Pitts want
I think that's
out
fair.
of his career. What does he really want to become? We see he's been called a unicorn. We see the height. You see the speed, but does he want to go down as one of the greatest? Does he want to be this dominating player? What does he want? Does he have interests outside the game that may be bigger than inside the game?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point. I think it's one that a lot of guys don't ever get to really publicly talk about. Some guys, the franchise guys, the face of the team type players, you see that more often. You kind of know where Matt Ryan is. I thought the one thing Kirk Cousins did here was Kirk Cousins not only helped build culture for Raheem and that first team with Raheem coaching, but I think the other thing Kirk was he was very vulnerable telling you how important football was to him and what he wanted from football and how long he wanted to play.
Yeah.
Now, it didn't go great on the field at times. And at the end of the day, the team decided to make a decision at that position based on not just the remainder of this year, but also what the future might be. And I think sometimes when a player is vulnerable to you about where football is for them, it can back up on them a little bit, right? So you got to be careful there. But I respect guys that are willing to be candid with the fans and with the community in which they're playing about where they are with the game.
Yes.
Because everybody is not at the same spot with the game. And I think you guys know that. You follow the teams and you follow
100%.
the players. But I think we all have to respect kind of where they are with the game. And I think that's probably at a spot where Kyle is now. I don't know that for sure. I don't know him very well, but I kind of sense that might be where it is.
So one, and I don't want to make this a pile on Kyle.
No.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm going to tell you the moment for me. just sitting and watching.
And B. Rich already knows. He's already nodding here.
Yeah,
I'm about to say.
So I'm gonna tell you the moment for me that made me be like, I don't know about Kyle. And for some people, this may be nitpicking, but this is Trey's point of view, right?
It's your show. You get your point of view.
There you go. See, I like Wes.
Shout out to Wes.
But look, Washington tie game. Michael Penix throws his first NFL touchdown.
Right.
Yes, it was to tie the game. It was a big moment.
Right.
And Kyle Pitts caught it. Maybe he was caught up in the moment or whatnot. But what I paid attention to that spoke volumes to me, Drake London was the one who ran and gave Michael Penix the football, not Kyle Pitts. Now, that may be something small.
Yeah.
But to me, that just showed me who I look at as the leader in that receiving group. Because Kyle is a tight end in name, but he's one of our receivers. He's looked at to be one of the main receiving options. And just for me, for Drake London to be that guy, he's not even the guy who caught the football to come bring it to the young quarterback in a big moment, and that's his first touchdown. To me, that said a lot. Now, that might be nitpicking. You can let me know if you think it's nitpicking. Either way, I'm going to still feel the same.
I think that players have to understand, Trey, all the actions on the field are watched.
Yeah.
All the actions. Look, I'm paid to watch the ball. Right? That's my job. Arch is the analyst. He watches the game. He watches coverage. He watches matchups, all those things. You guys, as fans, pay your hard-earned money. You come to the game. You can watch what you want to watch and interpret it the way you see it. That's an important aspect of the whole process that we go through. But for me to say, was there something there? I have no idea. But at the same time, it's interesting you notice that for sure.
I want to say this. Two things. The first thing is you don't have to chime in. I thought he was going to say this. The minute Michael Penix took over, Kyle Pitts said, "I just work here."
Oh, that too.
Yeah, so that's what I thought he was going to say. But in the other thing, I got a solution for Kirk Cousins. You can talk to the Falcons about it.
Okay.
Let's tell Kirk, let's stretch out his contract to 5-6 years, and he be the backup and be in Atlanta.
What?
I think he wants to be in Atlanta.
What?
Let's take his contract, stretch it out for 5 years. He gets to be the backup, and he gets to be in Atlanta. And I think, if something happens, he's there.
I don't know what it's going to be.
I think that's a solution.
It could be. If you're trying to stretch it out to survive the hit on the money, sure. But I don't know how this is going to play out. I think it's really interesting because no matter the highs and lows of what happened this fall, B. Rich, the reality is that the future of Kirk Cousins is going to be dictated by other teams. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot going on about Cleveland. There's a lot going on about other teams. But the premium is he is a commodity that is valued on the open market. And the number one thing you have to realize about the National Football League, and you're seeing it play out, like here we are taping this before the championship games, right? The 4 quarterbacks playing in the championship games are all legit. Every one of them.
That's true.
They're all legit. And one of them was a rookie. Another guy's double-figure years. You got MVPs, right? I mean, they're legit. So the reality of it is it's the most prized possession on the open market in the National Football League. You got to have 32 of them, and your guys got to be worth a damn. Because here's the cautionary tale. We walked around in this organization from 2004 till, what was it, 2021?
Yeah, 2021.
21. Matt Ryan's last year was 21, right?
That's a long time.
We walked around from 2004 to basically 21, or 2008 to 21 with Matt Ryan. We walked around at high-level quarterback play.
Yes.
Okay? Do you remember what 2007 was outside of the 13 games of Bobby Petrino?
Joy Harrington and
Byron Leftwich. And then Chris Redman.
And Chris Redman.
And Chris Redman.
Yeah.
Okay?
That was terrible.
All right? And then when Matt Ryan went away, we had Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay? So we went from consistently, Matt Ryan, 13 years, basically top 10 for 13 years at quarterback play, to off-the-chart quarterback play for a couple of years.
Yeah.
You brought Kirk Cousins in here. Why? Because he was a commodity on the open market.
Yes.
Okay? Sometimes you invest in the commodity and you get rich. Pardon the pun. But not really. And sometimes you don't. Kirk was an investment. Why did they take Michael Penix and everybody lost their mind last April? That was the insurance policy on the future. Okay? Guess what? You've already cashed the policy. Now, what value do you have? Your value is stretch it out, let him be the backup. Somebody else in the marketplace, another team, might want to say, you know what? It might have worked in Atlanta, but I think it might work here. Yeah. And we need a quarterback.
Yeah.
And even though Atlanta's going to pay him, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that's what's the ultimate end of this is going to be he ends up with another team. Your idea is not terrible, but I just don't know if that's the work on the math that you need to have going down the road.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking of our cap. That's all.
No question.
Yeah.
And we all should, as Falcon fans, you should be selfish about the salary cap. That's the one thing that every fan of every team ought to be selfish about. Yeah. How are we working our cap at this point, and what does it mean? Because teams that are technically bottom third sometimes have a bigger fight on their hands than others.
Yeah, well, you know, we talk about players putting out there what they want. I mean, Kirk let it be known when he got benched. He didn't go off. He didn't catch an attitude. He was a true professional.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he did make one statement that let everybody know what he thinks of himself. He said, "I didn't forget how to play quarterback."
That's right.
I mean, that's one of the first things. That's as close to being snippy as I have personally heard him. Now, I haven't followed him throughout his career. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Everywhere that he's went in every press conference.
Right.
But that let me know he doesn't want to sit and be a backup. I know it would be great for us as fans inside, but no.
I think the thing you can't forget about him, even though, again, on the field it probably didn't end the way any of us thought it would, right? Or the timing on it didn't end the way we thought it would. Kirk Cousins came here and did something that I think the payoff is still to come. And that is he built culture in that locker room with that team.
Yeah.
Now, Michael Penix.
I didn't think about that. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, I mean, because he comes in, first-year coach, familiar with some of the guys in the organization from his days in Washington. He'd come in from Minnesota. He's coming off an injury that used to end your career, and now he's trying to rehab from that injury. But his connectivity with the football team was pretty impressive. And that's just from somebody.
And with the fans. He was doing good. He did a great job.
Yeah. And still, I mean, a community-driven guy, faith-based guy, a lot of things.
People still like him.
I do. I think he's one of the finest people I've ever met doing this. I mean, he's on a short list of guys, so you're like, you know what? That's a good people. That's good people, and you would do stuff for him.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important aspect to him as well.
Yeah. Is there anything you could share with us that maybe we haven't heard about Michael Penix? You know, I call him the do-rag dude. So if you hear me say the do-rag dude, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, Dan Orlovsky's got a great term for him, and Dio and I have gotten to know each other because UConn came down here and got kicked by Georgia Tech a couple times when he was playing at UConn.
Okay, all right.
He's friends with Calvin Johnson, and so he knew that I did Calvin's games, and we connected a little bit on a couple different levels. But Dan Orlovsky told me, he said he's got a hand cannon.
Oh, wow, I got a hand.
And he does have a hand cannon. Yeah. I mean, the ball fires out of his hands.
Yeah.
Now, I have the benefit of knowing a lot of guys in our industry who do games at other places, college and pro. And the guy who's the radio voice at Indiana is a longtime friend of mine, and that's where Penix first started. And then I happen to know the guy that did the games on radio, still does the games on radio at University of Washington.
Okay.
And so I had some background on Penix from their interactions with him as much as what people see from a skill standpoint, right?
Okay.
And I think what we've seen is who Michael is. I think he is a guy who is very aware of landscape. I think the transfer thing in college actually helped him a little bit, process coming in and being a pro, different coaches. Obviously, you had Tom Allen at Indiana, and he had Kalen DeBoer at Washington. So I think he understands kind of the business of football, which I think helps. The second part is I think he's an open book to learning and skill. The other thing about being left-handed and stuff like that, I don't think that's as big a deal as people think it is, although you got to be better at right tackle with a left-handed quarterback.
Yes.
So that particular aspect of it strategically has to change. And you got to think about that a little bit more than you did, with a conventional right-handed quarterback. But I think in terms of his future, I think it's incredibly bright. I see no reason why he can't be in the discussion with some of these guys we're watching play this weekend in the next couple 3 years.
I want you to remember this when you're calling games. On 3rd and 4th down, Michael Penix, he's going to get it done. That's what he showed me. He's going to get it done, and not too many quarterbacks make you feel confident in that. And I just noticed those 3-game sample, when it's 3rd down, when it's 4th down, it's going to get done.
Do you notice he never went too high and too low with him?
Yep, he stayed calm.
It just kind of like And that's the one thing we saw, and you do see now. I mean, like, sure, you'll see this weekend and then Super Bowl 59, you'll see these guys get hyped up. I mean, they should. They're playing in the biggest game of the Western Hemisphere when they play in New Orleans in a couple weeks, right?
Yeah.
So, but for me, the poise and the talent level of a guy has to be measured by how the moments go. And Penix stays pretty even keel, which I respect. I think he's got a competitive, button in him like Bijan does, and I like that too. And you're going to need that during the year. But for me, Penix is a guy that I think you can ride the highs and lows with a little bit too.
Yeah, I think actually, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but going through a couple of injuries, looking at your career as being possibly over, had to test your faith, had to test your belief in yourself, and to come out on the other side of that and still be a top 10 draft pick.
Right.
I can't imagine the thought process of being an athlete going through 2 knee injuries to the severity that he went through, and then you come out on the other side, you fight through it and become a top 10 draft pick. That tells me everything I need to know about him mentally. Now, how it all translates with his skill and everything for the rest of his career, only time will tell. But that tells me everything I need to know.
No, I agree with you on that. I think that's a big part of it too. I think he's experienced a lot. I mean, you start as many college games as he did. He's practically played. He's played 5.5 years of football before he got here, as opposed to like Lamar Jackson, who didn't start his freshman year and then started his last 2 years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not to say that Penix is more experienced or going to be better than Lamar. I'm just using the experience college-wise in comparison. Penix came here with a lot more understanding of what this was than your average rookie 8th pick overall.
Yeah, and he could sit back and say, my time is coming.
I think he understands too. That's a good point, Trey. He processes the patience, and I think that was, again, we'll see down the road how valuable were those 13 games of Kirk Cousins starting, going through the highs and lows, the performance on Thursday night against Tampa, or the great win against New Orleans, to the situation in Denver, the situation in Minnesota, those downtrodden games where all of a sudden you're like, well, what's going on?
Yeah.
And what did Penix learn from that? I think we'll find out down the road.
Hey, Trey, I want to take it back. Take it back for you.
Don't go before 2004 now. If you go before 2004, I'm in trouble.
You said you did your history.
A little bit.
Okay, no.
Let's don't go. Don't be like quizzing me on something in Fulton County.
No.
Where they were smoking in the seats and the Cowboys were in town.
No, I want to talk about Larry Munson.
Okay.
Like for years he was the voice of the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, he was.
And I was used to that, but I want to say congratulations. Like, you're the voice of the Atlanta Falcons.
I appreciate that.
And when I hear it, I think of the Falcons. So just like Larry Munson, growing up listening to him.
Yeah.
I don't know from when he stopped who was doing the I think it was like Jeff Hullinger or those guys.
Jeff Hullinger's who I replaced. Yeah. Before that was Bob Neal.
Yeah, Bob Neal.
Before that was Bill Rosinski.
Yeah.
Before that, I think, was either Brad Nessler or Bob Neal.
Yeah.
And then Munson was kind of sandwiched in between.
I think Bob Neal was kind of like...
Bob Neal did the games twice.
I think he had a voice for the Falcons, but I don't know what happened. But you came in, solidified, and took that thing right on to the top.
Well, first of all, I appreciate that. Any comparison with Larry is one that's special to me because he and I became friends.
Yeah.
And
tell me about that.
Oh, God.
Tell us some stories, man.
I can't tell you all of them.
Of course not.
There's some... No. I know it's a podcast. I know it's on YouTube, but I still can't tell you all the stories.
I just remember, and before you go into, like, when he called Deion's first touchdown.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, he's going to score.
Oh, my God, he's going to score. My God, look at him.
Yeah, man.
Larry had an unbelievable gift. And he and I became friends because before I came to Atlanta, I worked in Nashville. I did Vanderbilt. Mm-hmm. So when I got to Vanderbilt, Larry had done Vanderbilt before he came to do Georgia.
Okay.
And the Braves.
Okay.
So he still was an institution in Nashville 30-odd years later when I was doing Vanderbilt. People, and then we'd play Georgia in football or basketball, and I'd see him from time to time. I came down here on a job interview for the Georgia Tech job in '95.
Okay.
And he saw me in the hall at W. What are you doing here? I'm like, well, I'm actually talking to him about the Georgia Tech. Oh, my God, you don't want to do that. Well, what do you mean?
Because you're a dog.
He goes, oh, then people say we can't talk to each other. Why do you want to ruin our friendship by taking the Georgia Tech job? And I'm like, you and I are going to be friends, whether I'm doing Georgia Tech, Vanderbilt, or somebody else. He goes, oh, I don't know. And so we had an unbelievable relationship, unbelievable friendship. One of the highest honors that I've ever received was delivering comments at his memorial service at Sanford Stadium. We got to know each other very well, spent some time together. I miss him terribly. But B. Rich and Trey, I can't do games like Larry Munson. Nobody can.
Nobody.
He was a one-on-one, man, and he was special. And Scott Howard has done a terrific job at Georgia following in Larry's footsteps of an impossible task, and Scott's done a great job. But Muntz was special to me. I was able to convince Jeff Van Note to do a few years of Georgia Tech games with me when Kim King unfortunately fell ill to cancer and ultimately passed away. And Jeff Van Note and I did a few games together for a few years. We had a great time. But Larry was still doing Georgia, so Munch and Van Note's trading out. He's with you. But Larry was special, and I do miss him. And it's one of the blessings of my career. My dad obviously was in the business, and I got to know of people, but I got to know John Ward at Tennessee when I was a young announcer at Vanderbilt. I got to know Larry. I got to meet Kaywood Ledford at Kentucky a couple times. In addition to all the people, Jim Fife at Auburn, Eli Gold, Alabama, Nick Hubert, who just retired a few years ago at Florida. Gene Deckerhoff still does Tampa Bay. He did Florida State for many, many years. But Larry, because, see, Larry did the Falcons in Georgia at the same time. So when I got the opportunity in 2004 to do the Falcons and I was still doing Georgia Tech, first thing I did was call these guys, like, how do you do this? Like, you know, what do I have to think about? And Larry, typical Munson, this is a story I'll share with you. So I called him. I said, hey, I got to talk to you. What do you want? I said, well, the Falcons are talking to me about doing the games, and I'm going to do Georgia Tech. Well, okay, you can do it. I said, I can't. I go, what do I need to know? Well, first of all, you need to know you're cheating. Cheating? How am I cheating? He goes, well, they're in the NFC South now. They play Tampa and Carolina and New Orleans. When I did the damn games, they were playing San Francisco and the Rams and all those damn teams. So you're cheating. I had to go from, by God, Oxford to Los Angeles. Do you know how you go from Oxford to Los Angeles? No, how do you go? You're lucky is what you are. And so finally, we got over that hurdle. And a couple of years after I started doing the games, he calls us, you sound good. Sound just like I thought you would. I said, well, I appreciate it. Yeah. So he was a beautiful soul. Yeah. And God, boy, did he leave you some memories now.
Yeah.
Falcons, Georgia, even some of those Braves calls from back in the day. And shoot, he was one-on-one, man.
Is there anyone in particular that sticks out to you that you remember some of the calls that he may have made?
Oh, I think, well, it's funny because I actually know somebody who was a high school teammate of Bill Bates, the player at Tennessee that Herschel ran over.
Yeah.
I think the Herschel call is like,
oh, yeah.
I have like, in my mind, I have like 10 college calls that are the greatest calls you've ever heard.
Yeah.
And the call of Herschel's touchdown run as a freshman at Knoxville against Bill Bates is unbelievable.
Wow.
I mean, it's a great call. I mean, the stage is set. Georgia's making the comeback and all that. Some of the calls late, the game they beat Florida and Jacksonville, where he spends basically the last 2.5 minutes talking about smoking a cigar. And the game is, well, I'm going to smoke the cigar. They tell me I can't, but I'm going to. You know, and I'm lighting the cigar. What about the game? How's the game doing? We're going to win, and I'm going to smoke the cigar. They tell me I can't, but I'm going to. And if I get thrown out, somebody will finish the game. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That, to me, is just beautiful.
Yeah.
The Lindsey Scott call is a one-of-one. Okay. That should never be in like competition of all time. It's just as good, singular standing alone, as anything you'll ever hear. In terms of the Falcons, the Deion punt return is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
When you think about, well, they're going to kick it to Deion, and here he goes, you know, that kind of thing. And sometimes you get the payoff. Like the setup is the payoff.
Yeah.
You know, like I got lucky. Matt Ryan to Michael Jenkins, I got lucky.
Oh, man.
I got lucky.
Yeah.
But I thought, you know, here's third down and his first professional pass. Bang. Got lucky.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Sometimes it happens, right? Yeah. You get Julio going for 300 against the Panthers. He scores on the touchdown. I hit 3 bills large. And people go, you said 3 bills large on the air. Oh, my God. And I promise you now, the 9 to 5 from Penix to London just hit me in the head like while they were going in the end zone.
Wow.
Falcons are working 9 to 5. That's what I said on the air during the Panther game this year. And people hit me back on social media about it, and I'm like, okay, I fell into one.
Yeah, and I didn't. I was at the game.
I'm just looking for 10%. I just want my little share of the 9 to 5. Yeah. I mean, don't be singing Dolly Parton for us, B. Rich, but you're a good man. But that's how that stuff happens, and that's what people remember. My dad had a great line. God bless him. My dad He looked at me one time. He goes, "How was the broadcast?" I said, "Well, Dad, it was pretty good." He goes, "Well, just remember this: nobody ever remembers what you said when your team got the hell beat out of them."
Wow.
They never do. They remember what happened when they won.
When the feelings are high and it's good.
When they win. But every once in a while, players, coaches, announcers will have a good game and their team doesn't win. And you have to say, you know what? I did as good as I could today, whether you're a broadcaster or a player or a coach. And at the end of the day, you got to live with how the scoreboard reads, because years from now, that's what people remember. But it's funny like that.
I was going to ask you about him anyway, but since you brought him up.
My dad?
Yeah, speak on your dad. Wes Durham, am I correct? Mm-hmm. North Carolina, the voice
of the Tar Heels for 40 years.
Voice of the Tar Heels. How was that, especially with your father calling all those games for all these iconic players who came through there, who went on to become iconic players at the next level as well? The most famous were MJ.
Sure.
Yes, I mean, how was that?
As a kid,
I mean, it could
unbelievable.
Be
as a kid, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
You didn't realize, though, the funny thing, Trey, is you didn't realize, I was a sophomore in high school when Michael hit the jump shot to win the national title. 1982.
You was a sophomore?
I was a sophomore in high school.
Were you at the game?
Nope, I didn't go to the game.
Did you meet Mike?
Yeah, I met Michael actually the summer before his senior year in high school.
Okay.
And I just knew him as Michael Jordan from Wilmington, who had a couple of his teammates at basketball camp.
Wow.
I didn't realize Michael Jordan was, all this in a bag. I met Ralph Sampson before his senior year in high school.
Wow.
Now, I knew Ralph Sampson was a little bit different because that cat was 7'4" and 210 and had long arms. But he was, and I still know Ralph, and I'll probably see Ralph this weekend because I'm doing a game at Virginia.
Oh, wow.
And one of the cool things about it is some of these guys, some of your heroes have become your friends. Now,
cool.
I haven't seen Michael in a decade and change, but I know several of Michael's friends. But you didn't think of Michael Jordan as what we think of Michael Jordan today, international icon of sports, like you did when you saw him as prior to a senior year in high school. Wow. But yeah, it was an unbelievable experience, blessing to grow up the son of Woody Durham. And to be able to go to Carolina games and travel with the team on occasion to go to basketball or football games. But it also helped me understand that I wanted to be in sports. And, I was 6 feet and 185 at 12. Thought I was going places.
Okay.
Thought I was going to be Larry Bird.
That was pretty tough.
Thought I was going to be Larry Bird, but I couldn't guard. Couldn't guard and really didn't want to pass. Just want to be lefty in the corner, swing the ball around to me. I'll stand right here, fellas.
I'll fit right into basketball now, though.
Oh, yeah. Shooting threes out of the corner.
You fit right in.
Yeah. You don't just stand right over there. Yeah. But I realized early, the other blessing, one of the many in my life is at 14 or 15, I realized I wasn't going to be that high school guy, that college guy in terms of playing. So how could I stay connected to the game? And I told my dad when I was 15, I said, hey, look, I think I might want to do this. And he said, well, you got to start thinking about in a different light, like what's hands-on experience look like? What does the environment look like? So the last time I sat in the stands at a major college football game, I was 13, 14 years old. I haven't been in stands since. Wow. I've been in the press box at just about every game I've been to, or I stand on the sideline. Wow. Like if I were to go watch a Georgia Tech play and I'm not doing the game, or even a high school game where we live up in Cartersville, I stand on the sidelines. I don't want to sit in the seats. That's hard. It's uncomfortable. You get, it's kind of weird. Or I sit in a suite. where I can get up and walk around and do stuff like that, because it's hard to go sit in the stands. For me, it is.
Yeah.
But my dad, he gave me a lot of momentum and a lot of enthusiasm, and then said, hey, you got to – and I got to college, and my college experience at Elon in North Carolina was unbelievable. I did 150 games on radio in college.
Wow.
Well,
So I jumped ahead. I jumped ahead of some people and got some really bad tape out there that somebody bought in and said, hey, this guy's young. We don't have to pay him much, and he might be good. So that's what happened.
I tell you what, man, your dad gave you a good foundation, because you're doing big things now, man, in the city.
Been very fortunate.
Yeah.
This has been, the opportunity to come here in 95 to start doing Georgia Tech, and to do Georgia Tech for 18 years, be rich. And to have some of the moments with those guys that my dad had at Carolina, to win a couple ACCs, to have Calvin Johnson's college career, to have a Final Four team in basketball, to have, it's amazing. I FaceTime Stephon Marbury's son plays for Cal, who's now in the ACC, obviously. Okay. So I had a Cal game last week, and his son FaceTimed Steph with me, standing there. Wow. It was amazing. Stephon Marbury.
Stephon Marbury.
Yeah, so Stephon Marbury. Yeah, Starbury. He FaceTimed me, and I was sitting there talking.
You used to call. You called Georgia Tech Final Four game, didn't you?
04 against UConn. Yeah. That whole season with Ishmael Muhammad,
awesome.
BJ Elder, and those guys. And BJ's on staff now, obviously with Damon Stoudemire. So whenever I have Georgia Tech, I get a hug from one assistant coach. I know that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, look, I got a tough one for you, right? You started the Falcons when?
04.
All right, from 04 to now, I want you to give me your Mount Rushmore of Atlanta Falcon teams.
Is that four? 4 guys?
Yeah, four teams.
Oh, 4 teams?
Yes, tough. From 04 to now, your favorite 4 Falcons.
Well, I'm going to take the 04 team.
Who was on that team?
Michael Vick. Mm-hmm. That was Michael Vick, Michael Turner's first year. No, that was 08 with Michael Turner. Yeah, he was 08. But Michael, that's a team that played in the NFC Championship.
Against the Eagles.
Against the Eagles, and it was like 4 degrees.
Okay, so that's one.
That's one. 08.
Tell us about that team.
That's Matt Ryan's rookie year.
Okay, went to the playoffs.
That's Michael Turner in free agency.
Yeah.
John Abraham peeling off the edge.
Yeah, okay.
We had Keith Brookings still at linebacker.
Yeah, okay.
So that's 08. And then I want the Super Bowl team.
16.
All
right.
For a lot of reasons. And then I'm going to go back a couple years. I want the team that lost to San Francisco in the NFC Championship. 12.
Yeah.
I want the 12 team.
Oh, that's a good one. I said that's a good one.
Yeah, I want those 4.
Okay, that's a good one.
Now, I want 04 for my own personal reasons.
But the first year you got to call the NFC Championship.
That's exactly right.
I mean,
and almost didn't make the game.
Why?
Because I did basketball for Georgia Tech down here, and it was snowing in Philadelphia.
And then you couldn't fly out.
My flights got canceled, and fortunately the Falcons had a charter plane that was going that morning, and I walked over and said, hey, I need a seat on the plane. They got me on the plane.
Wow.
That was awesome.
Shout out to Blank, man. Thank you, Blank, for getting Wes where he needed to be.
Thank you, Mr. Blank. Thank you, Rich McKay. Yeah.
Thank you for getting, I think I would have gone with those same 4 teams.
The NFC Championship loss to the 49ers.
We should have won that. Like, talking to Roddy White and all those guys, Willie Moe and John Abraham, they really felt like they beat the best of the best.
I totally agree. This is going to be hard for people to process. Super Bowl 51 is heartbreaking for a lot of people. The NFC Championship loss to the 49ers is right there with me, because I felt like had Atlanta won that game, they would have won the Super Bowl. And I know it would have been Baltimore, but they still would have won the Super Bowl.
And they said they beat Baltimore that year.
They did on Thursday night. Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I just felt like that team was the one that was going to go. And Atlanta was going to win the Super Bowl in New Orleans, which would have been even better.
Yes.
To be able to, exercise the demons out of that building.
That would have been the most amazing thing as a Falcons fan.
Man, you want retribution on a lot of things, right?
That would have been amazing.
Where's Trey? We got to do it, man. We got to win.
Sure,
we got to,
absolutely.
Man. We got to do it, man.
And that's why you invest the way you do. And that's why, like on Sundays, I love the connectivity with the fan base and the people that reach out to us one way or the other, because I know how important it is to people in this marketplace. As much as Atlanta's grown through the years, and certainly I've been here 30 years, you guys have been longer, you know how big the city's gotten, and you know how many different people come around. Like, for reasons I have no idea why, you're wearing a Dodgers hat.
No, it's Lovely Atlanta.
Oh, Lovely. Oh, is that it? Okay.
Lovely Atlanta.
I got it.
It's really like for the decor.
I got you.
I have hope.
You coordinate.
Lovely Atlanta.
Lovely Atlanta. Okay.
I have Hawks.
Yeah, I
and
see
as
it.
you see what the wording said, Neek won.
Yeah, Neek won.
He won that dunk contest.
Yeah, he won that dunk contest. Now, we might have to have a discussion about that.
He beat you, MJ. I'm sorry.
I do think that the investment that people have had and the return on it, I hope it happens.
Hey, so listen, you got to do this.
What's that?
Trey coined the phrase for the Falcons. We got a T-shirt. I mean, a hoodie. It's called the Blood Pressure Birds. They're stressing me out. So look,
the Blood Pressure Birds. That's what I call them.
So whenever you call a game and you think, just say, shout out to Trey, the Blood Pressure Birds.
I don't know Trey. No, wait a second. Hang on. We're not doing endorsements for Trey on the air. Trey not going to get an endorsement. Let me see if I can write that down somewhere
Blood Pressure
here.
Birds.
Okay.
They're stressing me out. That's a good one.
The Blood Pressure Birds.
That's what I call them.
I might slip that one in for you.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Just let them know.
Don't come looking for your 2%.
Hey, look, I already got it locked down. That name is already locked in.
Got it already locked in?
Yeah, that name is already locked in.
Yeah.
You know,
But look,
just let them know where it
if you help
came
it blow up,
from.
man, we got you, man. We got you.
Just let them know where it came from, man.
If I get my 9 to 5 cut, then you'll get your Blood Pressure Birds, right?
Got you.
There you go.
Hey, so listen.
All right.
We do a blast from the past.
Okay.
All right. And so what we do is we set it up, talk about it, and we clip it, and it usually becomes a good viral clip.
Okay.
So I want you to go into the radio mode and give us a blast from the past from the Falcons, a moment that you remember, and kind of set it up. Do the radio style, man, like how they did it inside the NFL back in the day.
A blast from the past for the Falcons.
Like a play, let you remember.
Yeah, something that was memorable to you. It could be something that meant a lot to you. I know it's a lot of them. Calling the games, it's a lot.
Well, the easy one is Ryan's pass to Jenkins.
Okay, set it up.
So here's the thing. When you start thinking about the play, it's their first possession. Okay, there's a lot going on here. Detroit's coming in. John Kitten is the starting quarterback of the Detroit Lions, and Calvin Johnson is playing for the first time as a pro in Atlanta. Okay, so Calvin Johnson's come back. Do you remember now that Boss Bailey was on that team too?
Yep.
Boss Bailey was on the Detroit Lions. So, there's a little bit of local flavor to the whole deal. But Matt Ryan, you guys remember this, Matt Ryan was controversial in terms of the pick because that was supposed to be Glenn Dorsey.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted Glenn Dorsey until we got right down to like within the last week before the draft. And people were like, well, maybe we ought to take the quarterback.
Yeah.
And the quarterback had thrown, 3 blocks away his senior year. The quarterback had come to Atlanta and played Georgia Tech on a Saturday night and thrown for 400 yards, right?
Austin Collins, yeah.
And the Falcons, brass was at the game. So they saw it. And I think Ryan, the Matt Ryan we all got to know in Atlanta is who the Falcons saw in the draft process out of Boston College. So for me, you take all that into account. You're coming off a bad year. You're Bobby Petrino that coached 13, E.T. coached the last 3 type thing. It's kind of like a turning point with a team, right? Think about it. You're either going to maintain that 3-year momentum you had a little bit of with Jim Mora, then you go Petrino, and now all of a sudden it's kind of dissolved on you. Everything seemed to be happening like every 6 days there was something else happening.
Yes.
And now all of a sudden you've hired Mike Smith, you've hired Thomas Dimitroff, and you're trying to rebuild this thing. So for me, you then think about, okay, you're playing Detroit. The next year they win no games. They had Roy Williams at wide receiver and Calvin Johnson. Right? Roy Williams out of Texas on one side, Calvin Johnson on the other.
He was a beast.
Yeah, he was. Calvin was a real beast.
Oh, man.
But Matt Ryan's first third down is his first professional pass. Now think about that.
Man,
That's a lot of pressure.
So they talked about it at they had a tribute
For Ryan, yeah.
and we went.
Oh, did you? I was there that night. It was
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, it was
you
really
were
cool.
that night.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we went, and a lot of people, and you can speak to this as well. There's a certain percentage of the fan base who thinks Matt Ryan is just this button-up corporate guy, do whatever I'm told, doesn't have much personality, just bland.
Yeah, man.
They really do.
Right.
Like he's just a plain peanut butter and jelly with a milk lunch meal.
Sure.
There's nothing exciting. That's what a lot of people think.
Right.
But being in that room, I didn't think that of him, but being in that room, Matt Ryan is completely opposite of what most people have seen or they think of Matt Ryan. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. He's a competitor. He always was a competitor. You saw bits and pieces of it in his college career, but where you really saw it, like after that touchdown, he loses his mind. He's pumping everybody up and all that. But then think about things that happened like those Panther games, the New Orleans games. Matt Ryan loved to win in New Orleans more than anybody I've ever been around. Anybody. Because he took it that I'm the quarterback of the Falcons, and I want to win in this building. This is the team to beat. One thing Panthers and Falcons and Bucs fans all have in common?
What?
They hate New Orleans. The other three teams in the division dislike. Panther fans, like growing up in North Carolina and remembering the birth of pro football there, Panther fans dislike New Orleans. Now, maybe not as much as we do, but they're close. And the Bucs aren't far behind.
Wow.
Everybody wants to beat New Orleans. And that's a good thing. The Falcons-Saints rivalry, and I've said this on the air a ton, the Falcons-Saints rivalry is a college football rivalry that just happens to occur in the NFL.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is we get to play twice every year. Because the gloves come off in the game. The players know it. I mean, Matt Ryan and Cam Jordan were on CBS a couple of weeks ago, and they joked around a little bit, and Cam Jordan talks about how many times he sacked Matt Ryan. And while Ryan laughs and so forth, I can see in the back of his head the wheels are turning like, yeah, man, I wish I had one more crack. That's the competitor Matt Ryan is. That's what I mean by a competitor.
That's awesome.
But it's special, and that's who he is. And I think you did see in that tribute event that night at the downtown at the Buckhead Theater that Matt Ryan is an ultimate competitor. He is a leader who's a competitor. You want your best leaders to be your biggest competitors. And that's why I think, he's the most important player in Falcons franchise history.
I can see after going, I can see that.
Yeah. I mean, I just really do. I think he came at a time of great turbulence. Think about it. Roddy said it on your podcast.
It's tough.
All we did was go to the playoffs and win. Now, did we win the one we all wanted to win? No. But he's the only one in franchise history to be the MVP. He's the only one to get you to the game, in the, out of the top seed or one of those top seeds, second seed, I guess. He was a terrific player.
Yeah, he was. And I love Michael Vick. And I hate that Vick name and Matt Ryan name have to be associated so much with them both being Falcons quarterbacks, but Matt Ryan replacing Vick. But for all of us who love Vick, I don't think enough of us take the time to see the almost impossible task that Matt Ryan had come in to replace Michael Vick. For any quarterback, that was going to be tough to come in and replace that guy like that. And everything that was going on around the team, not just replacing him at the position, there was a lot going on around the team.
No question. A lot going on in town, a lot going on everywhere.
Yes, it was a lot. And for him to come in and handle it the way he did, he will always get my respect for handling it the way that he did.
Yeah, and it was funny because you would see, and not that you don't see Vic jerseys now, you still do, but you see a lot of Matt Ryan jerseys now. And early in Matt's career, you'd see a Matt Ryan jersey here and there, and you'd see 6 times the Vic jerseys. But as the careers went on, and Mike's life and Mike's redemption from where he came from on this is so inspiring.
It is.
The number of people that Michael Vick has impacted positively in the second half of this, in the chapters he's written after incarceration, are amazing.
Yeah.
And he deserves all that credit, for sure. But I think Matt Ryan also deserves credit because he came here and said, look, I may not be the popular choice. I may not be the guy you had here before, but I can still do some of the same things to help you win.
He put time in that locker room.
Put time in the locker room. He's put time in the community. Mm-hmm. The commitment level he has to the city of Atlanta is unbelievable. And I'm a huge fan of his. Happen to be, he's been a great friend, and we've had unbelievable conversations about it postscript too.
Okay.
All right,
is that good?
I got a couple things I want to ask you. Man,
all
I
right.
got so much. I don't know. I don't know if you was around at this time, but it's a rumor out there about Steve Bartkowski.
I wasn't around.
Okay, but are you familiar with him?
I know Steve.
Okay, well, you probably don't know, but it was rumored that he threw the ball 101 yards before. And I just wanted to know if you could ask Dave Archer or anybody, is this true? They say he threw it 101 yards in practice one time in Cal.
At Cal?
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not. And I would love for someone to confirm that.
can't confirm it here
I know
on the
he can't
show.
confirm it now, but
Is he gonna text somebody?
He can text me.
FaceTime?
When he finds out and he talks to Dave Archer or talks to someone, he can leave me a text. You know what, B. Rich?
Why don't you just have Arch on the show? See if he
I would love to
maybe
have
get
Arch.
Bart on the show.
Oh, if you could do that.
Steve Bartkowski. Maybe y'all show up at camp.
He's somewhere in Montana fishing.
Yeah, I'm almost positive he's full of Montana.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned about Aaron. The minute you brought up 101 yards, Aaron got up, walked around the room as if something had gone on here. That was
Hey, listen, Google
unpacking government secrets here or something.
No. We had a long discussion. There was a show
about 101 yards of Steve
based
Bartkowski.
around Steve Bartkowski.
Urban legend of Steve Bartkowski and 101 yards.
Like who had the strongest arm? That's what the whole show was about. Steve Bartkowski or Michael Vick, who had the strongest arm? And he talked about this 101-yard pass that Steve
Bart had an arm, man.
And so
he had an arm.
I put some sauce on it. He talks about this 101-yard pass that Steve Bartkowski threw while laying on his back reading the newspaper, and he just flipped it and went 101 yards. You know, that's what he talks
you're
about.
really taking some shrapnel.
And I told him.
Hey, man,
and I appreciate you asking me. I have no idea.
Okay.
But
All right.
I wish you well in your recovery
I'm
from
gonna
asking
find out.
this again.
I told him, Wes. I said, I saw Michael Vick throw the football out of the stadium. It may have been on
a
a commercial.
Coca-Cola commercial.
It may have been a commercial.
Wasn't that Coca-Cola? Wasn't that Coca-Cola?
Yeah, it was one of them.
Or Nike? Or is that the fan experience thing with the
like
ride?
That. Yeah, something like that. I saw him throw it out of the stadium. We have that on actual tape. I can pull it up on YouTube right now.
Sure.
I forgot my other question. Go ahead, Trey. Let me regroup.
Well, before we get back to some Falcons,
Sure.
I do want to get you to give us a Georgia Tech moment and I have to shout them out. I said
You gotta shout out Georgia Tech.
I said the next time we did our show, I was gonna shout Georgia Tech out because we've been doing this show for almost 12 months now. Mm-hmm. Give it up for ourselves, man. We've been really doing our thing. And it's an Atlanta-based, Georgia-based podcast.
Right.
The first major institution or team to interact with some of our content was Georgia Tech.
Okay.
And I
Great.
want to shout out to Georgia Tech.
Good.
And so if you could give us a Georgia Tech moment. Quincy was on here, Quincy Carter. He talked about the game with him against Joe. And when they
the
played
99 game?
and the overtime game. And so
If there'd have been video review, it would have turned out different?
I mean, yeah,
What you think?
Had there been video review, absolutely would have turned out different. But there wasn't. But they probably,
was it a fumble? Was it not a fumble?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They called it a fumble.
Yeah,
Chris
they
Young,
did.
who was from down in Coweta County, Blackjack, Georgia.
Yeah.
He recovered the fumble.
Yeah.
And then Quincy, I don't know how Quincy told y'all the story, but the coin toss, Joe Ham has this great story. He goes out there for the coin toss, and he tells Quincy, you better forget that play right now. We're getting ready to play more football, man. And Quincy's over there like, y'all stole the game. Joe said, better not worry about that, Quincy. Better get ready for the coin toss because we're getting ready to play again. Joe's trying to help Quincy.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And Joe's like, all right, guess we got the ball first. Look, the game in 99 would have definitely been overturned if there had video review. Definitely. But they didn't.
Yeah, they didn't.
And look, again, like Falcons Saints, Tech Georgia's a thing. They've got 100-odd years of history. They don't even agree on the number of times they've played. It's a beautiful thing.
Wow.
Okay? So I'm all about it. I think that anytime, it's funny. My wife went to school at Georgia, but is a huge Tech fan. My father-in-law graduated in 55 from Georgia Tech.
Okay.
Wow.
So my wife went to school in Athens, got a degree from the Grady School, and she pulls like crazy for Georgia Tech.
Yeah. She
Not
was
Georgia.
raised, her dad, so she was raised up under
Her
that.
dad was a Tech grad. She grew up a Tech fan, the whole bit. And, we live out northwest Georgia, so predominantly a Bulldog kind of fan base, right?
I would believe.
But all that being said, that's the beauty of Tech in Georgia. A lot like Falcons Saints. And look, they played a great game this year.
Oh,
it was an
man.
amazing
That
game.
It was.
It lasted too damn long.
Was that the
but
best one?
It did.
Was that the best one ever?
Yes,
Oh,
Georgia Tech,
God.
Georgia.
I don't.
It's
be
up
rich.
there. It's up there.
They got 100-odd meetings, man.
Man, that was 8 overtime.
I understand. But it was 8 overtimes because we got a jacked up rule in college where we go for 2.
I know.
Now, that's a whole nother podcast. The college overtime.
Now, I mean, it lasted all night.
My
son walked in the room and said, "Are they still playing?
Yeah.
My God!" And he walked right back out the room.
I mean, but Tech in Georgia has that history to it, like Alabama, Auburn, all those things. I think that's a huge piece of this. I really do.
Can you give us a Calvin Johnson moment? Because even though Calvin Johnson is not a Falcon, for all the people who only watch us because of the Falcons, Calvin Johnson, he played at Georgia Tech. He's dear to the entire state of Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
He's an awesome, awesome player. Can you give us like a Calvin Johnson story, a memory, favorite play?
Better person than player, first of all. That's the number one thing you need to know. Much better human being than football player. I guess there's 2 stories. One, James Butler, who was a free safety, older player when Calvin showed up as a freshman. And I used to work on campus at Georgia Tech, had an office when I was there the whole bit. And the summer workouts prior to Calvin's freshman year in 2004, JB came after one of the workouts, and we were kind of talking in the office. And James went on to win a Super Bowl. He played for the New York Giants. When they beat the Patriots, JB was on their Super Bowl team. Great guy from South Georgia.
Okay.
And JB was in the office, and I said, "Well, how are the workouts?" He said, "Pretty good." And I said, "Well, how's the young wide receiver?" He said, "You mean Calvin?" I went, "Yeah." He goes, "He's the best player on the football team."
Wow.
I said, "James, he's not played a game yet." He said, "He's the best player on the football team."
Wow.
I said, and James Butler was all ACC.
Wow.
James Butler was not just some guy issued gear in a locker. James Butler was a real football player.
Yeah.
And he said he might be the best player on the team.
Wow.
That was the first statement where I went, okay, so you might have to be prepared for different.
Yeah.
Right? Calvin's greatest trait, in my opinion, B. Rich and Trey, was that Calvin went on the field every day for practice trying to be better at something in 2 hours. Every day he wanted to come off the field better at something.
Wow.
Might have been the first step of a route, might have been the way he hit a cut, might have been the way he caught a certain pass, might have been the way he whatever. Calvin's goal was, I'm going to be better 2 hours from now than I was when I started.
That's a great way to think of things.
Like the term stack days, Calvin was the original guy who wanted to stack days.
Stack days.
And he stacked them all the way to Canton, Ohio. He is as good a football player. I say this, and I'm not trying to denigrate the history of Georgia Tech football. Pound for pound, he's the greatest player in Georgia Tech football history.
Do you have a particular play?
Well, look, his first college road game, he caught 3 touchdown passes at Clemson, including the game winner from Reggie Ball. His first college road game, which was his second game. By the way, that game holds a spot for me because that game was a night game on ABC at Clemson. I had to come back to Atlanta after the game, and I flew to San Francisco the next morning to do my first Falcons regular season game in March.
Oh, wow.
2004. So that game in its entirety and the whole sequence is always special to me. But 2004 against Clemson in his first college road game is pretty unbelievable.
Wow. So you got a little bit of the experience that Larry told you about having to fly out west, having to do a game in Georgia. And
but I was still, according to Munson, I was still cheating.
Still cheating. Go ahead, B.
I want to take it back to the Super Bowl on one particular play. And it's never talked about in the Falcons Super Bowl, of course.
Julio's catch?
Nah, that's always talked about.
Okay.
No, I don't think anybody.
It was a penalty. It was a penalty. Was it Jake Matthews? Was it a hold or was it a?
Yeah, Jake Matthews.
So they called a holding play on that play. On that same play, Sanu got a face mask. You remember that? Do you remember? Mm-hmm. I don't understand why they didn't call offsetting penalties and start those down over, man.
I've realized something here today. You're in charge of history. B. Rich is in charge of conspiracies.
I like that. But did,
right? Did
that not happen?
Look,
did Sanu get face mask?
Should it also have been offsetting and we replay the down?
Yes.
Yeah, probably. No question.
That eats me up to
no question.
So you agree that he got face mask?
Oh, I agree.
I mean, everybody saw it.
I agree everything was scattered in the last 9 minutes of that game. There were things that happened in the last 9 minutes of that game that if you put 10,000 reps on the table, it wouldn't happen again.
It wouldn't happen again.
Now, as painful as it is, I would tell you to watch that Apple series on the Patriots and watch that episode. I just watched it.
Which episode?
The episode about the Super Bowl game.
Okay.
From New England's perspective.
Okay, I would love to see that.
Yeah, you need to. It's on Apple TV.
Apple TV.
And it came out, I guess, last summer, right before football started.
Patriots?
It's called The Dynasty, and it chronicles New England's dynasty with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. But the episode about Super Bowl 51 you need to see.
Okay, thank you.
Because the Patriots all are like, we have no chance, except one guy.
And that was Tom Brady.
That was Brady. Yeah. But now, in the last 9 minutes, they agree, like I do, everything that could have gone to turn the game happened. Yeah. Everything happened.
They needed all those things.
I mean, from Atlanta recovering an onside kick, not being able to do anything with it, to, I mean, look, take yourself out of field goal range with penalties. That's what you're talking about.
2 different holding calls.
Yeah, defensive holding, you name it, everything stacked up to go the other way.
I went to that Super Bowl, and I just remember for 3 quarters, I thought I knew what it felt like for us to win the Super Bowl.
Right.
And I was just like, I went to the parade, doing this, doing that. And afterwards, man, I talked to him on the phone, man, and I just, it felt like a family member had died.
That's exactly what happened.
He said 5 words when he called me. Now, he didn't say 5 words and hang up. He just kept repeating the same 5 words in different orders, and they were all profanities.
Right. I understand. Look,
I didn't hear him say anything but cuss words for about 5 minutes. I'm just like,
I've heard,
this guy's really.
I can't begin to tell you the number of stories I have heard postscript of the game. People who were supposed to fly home the next day went out in the parking lot and got in a rental car and drove home.
Wow. Wow, they
people that did that. I mean, there were people who went to the game who, like, I kept it on DVR for about 9 months.
I did too. And
went back and watched it right before the next season started. I watched the second half.
Did you get a chance to call that game?
I did that game. Yeah. And to go back to our theory of nobody ever remembers a game you lose or get the hell beat out of you.
Yeah.
We had a pretty good broadcast.
You know, you talk about DVR. I had it on DVR. I watched that game. I don't want to exaggerate, but I promise you, it was more than 50 times that I've
oh my! I don't know if I'd subject myself to all that.
I watched that game. I've watched it trying to just understand how everything that went wrong. Like, how do you get an onside kick? I go back to those, and he hears me all the time. I go back to that. You get an onside kick, first down. You run the ball, you get 9 yards on it.
Yeah, then you throw. Then you start throwing it.
But they called a holding call, remember?
Yeah, the holding call 9 yards.
They called a holding call. And then after that, you try to throw your way out of it, and none of it works, all 3. And then Austin Hooper had a catch that may have been a first down, but the DB knocked it right out of his hand. And then you end up punting. And we were in... After that first run, we were in Matt Bryant's range already.
Yeah.
After that, Tevin Coleman, and I want to say that's the play Tevin Coleman got hurt on. Tevin Coleman got hurt on this. You see, I watched that game too.
Yeah, you're in trouble. Yeah, we got to get your scar tissue taken care of.
But you know what? It helped me deal with it though.
I understand, and people are like that. That's the part. Every once in a while, you hear these stories, and like the person that told me they got in the car and drove home. Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, how in the world did you drive home? What was going to help me process it? That's like 11 hours. You know? I mean, look, everybody goes through some form of emotion because that's what you commit to. That's what you sign up for.
Yeah.
You know, the folks that are really nice at the end of a year, hey, really enjoyed listening to you guys, things like that. That means that's the highest compliment we can be paid, by the way. Yeah. You know, is for fans to say, hey, I take my radio to the game, or I find ways to listen to you guys on Sunday, or whatever the case may be, or watch the game in TV's regard. That's the highest compliment we can be paid. You're committing to us to be a companion piece for your fandom of whatever it is. And in the case of the Falcons, it's emotional because guys like y'all have been committed. You signed up for it, right? That's your team. Everybody's got a team. You came to the team one way or the other because you moved here, because you grew up here, you understand there was somebody in your family, maybe your grandfather, your dad, your mom, sister, whatever the case may be. You signed up. It's our job to be the companion piece with your fandom. And that's a job that I happen to take pretty responsible when it becomes, big like that. And when you do it for an NFL team or you do it for a big college program, it's an important piece. And that's a big responsibility, and it's one I'm honored to do.
That's awesome. Well, I know we're getting close. B. Rich, you have anything else you want to ask Wes?
What else conspiracy theories do you have for me, B. Rich?
Man, I'm just thankful you came to join us, man.
This was easy.
Yeah, man, I had a great time.
Fun to do.
Do I have any more conspiracy theories?
The funny thing is, I'm more of the conspiracy theories between the two of us, but he just,
not today.
He just lights into them
today. My man at Barkowski at 101. I can't answer that one.
He has on a backwards.
I bet you ask.
Next time I see Bart, Steve, somebody told me you threw the ball 101 at Cal. Oh, I don't know. I can tell you the answer. Oh, I don't know is going to be the answer.
God, he's like, yeah, I did.
Yeah, and I can call B. Rich and go, guess what? You were right. So
please do. Yeah, and please, if you could put us in touch with Dave, if you could put us,
we
would love to have.
Yeah, he'd be fun. You guys got a good setup.
I remember his career. I remember.
Yeah. Carl came and hung out. You guys have had great guests. Congratulations.
Yeah, man,
nice first year.
Thank you. Yeah, Carl came through. Home team came through.
B-League?
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
Yeah.
First guest of the year.
Yeah, you are our first guest of the year.
New Year, yeah.
Yeah, you're our first guest.
You're on the way up in 2025.
Yeah. There we go. Well, look, on that note, man, we can get on up out of here. Man. To all y'all just saw the legendary Wes Durham, the voice of the Atlanta Falcons. Let's give it up for our guy, Wes, one more time. Always remember the Waterboyz Show. We represent Atlanta because Atlanta represents us. So on behalf of myself, Trey, got Wes Durham over here, my partner B. Rich, and Aaron, Pittman, the Waterboyz Show. We are out.
Kill the camera.